What if the only man you tried to push away became the only one who never left your side? That question would haunt Eliza Ray for the rest of her life. The fire glowed behind her, lighting the empty saloon with a red, angry shine. Eliza stood shaking, her hands covered in soot and blood. It was his blood. Jack lay on the floor, barely breathing, his coat soaked in red. The gang's horses were already fading into the night, their hooves kicking up dust that drifted like ghosts through the moonlight. Eliza dropped to her knees beside him and brushed his hair from his forehead. Her voice cracked as she whispered, "You foolish man! Why did you come back?" His breath was weak, but his words were steady. "Because I said I would. I keep my word." Eliza felt tears sting her eyes. No one had ever meant those words before. Promises had always been lies in her life. But this cowboy, this quiet stranger, had kept every one of his. Dry Creek was a tired little town where nothing grew right. Not the crops, not the dreams, and certainly not the people. It sat between nowhere and forgotten, stretched along a crooked river that had not flowed right in years. Dust covered everything. It clung to windows, dresses, boots, and even settled inside hearts. People there learned early that hope was a dangerous thing to carry. Lately, the town whispered only one name, Eliza Ray. She walked like a ghost with a limp you could hear before you saw her. Her boot made a dull thud on the boardwalk that always drew stares. She wore long skirts to hide the leg that had never healed right after the fire. A thin scar ran from the corner of her eye to her jaw. Some said it gave her character. Others just looked away. People knew pieces of her story. The fire, the loss, the husband she buried, Caleb Trent. The handsome, wild man from the powerful Trent Ranch. When the ranch burned down 3 winters ago, Eliza crawled out while half her body was on fire. Caleb did not crawl out at all. They buried what was left of him 2 days later. Eliza never cried. Not once. Folks said only 2 things. Either she caused the fire, or she loved him so deeply it broke her heart beyond repair. Both stories followed her like shadows. After that day, she moved into a lonely cabin on the edge of town, half broken, half forgotten. She worked odd jobs. She spoke only when she needed to. Her voice always sounded like it had to fight through walls to get out. Women avoided her. Men avoided her even more. Children whispered scary tales about the ghost woman at the edge of Dry Creek. Most days she sat on her porch with a tin cup of weak coffee, watching the hills like they held answers. Maybe she was waiting for someone. Maybe she was waiting for nothing at all. What she did know was that pain had dug deep inside her. She wanted to forget what love felt like. She wanted to forget what it felt like when love burned her whole world down. She often told herself she did not need anyone. She said it out loud sometimes, just to hear it bounce off the empty walls. But at night, when the wind rattled her windows and coyotes howled close, she missed the sound of another voice. She missed being seen. Life stayed the same in Dry Creek until Jack came. He rode into town one quiet morning with the sun behind him. His horse thin, his clothes worn, his hat pulled low. Nobody paid attention. Another drifter, they thought, just passing through. But he did not pass through, he stayed. He rented the old bunkhouse behind the livery and worked any job people offered. He fixed fences, hauled freight, scrubbed floors. He never complained. He never talked much. He never drank. He just nodded when spoken to and kept moving. People tried to ask his name. He only ever said Jack. Eliza saw him once in passing and thought nothing of it. Just another man hiding his own stories. The world was full of them. But Jack saw her. The first time their eyes met was outside the general store. She bought sugar and lamp oil. He stepped aside for her, but instead of looking away from her scar, he nodded at her like she was simply another person. Not an outcast, not a rumor, just a person. It unsettled her more than she liked. The next time was at the post office. Same nod, same calm eyes. No fear, no pity. After the third time it happened, Eliza found herself avoiding the places where she usually went. Then she grew angry with herself for doing it. He was not even talking to her, yet somehow he was getting under her skin. Their real story began the day her old wagon wheel broke. She had been hauling firewood from the hills. Her wheel snapped right on the road near the church, spilling the load everywhere. The mule nearly dragged her off her feet. Jack was across the street mending a fence. He watched for a moment, dropped his hammer, and walked toward her. No words, no bragging, just rolled up his sleeves like it was natural. "I did not ask you," she said. "You did not need to," he replied. He studied the wheel, then disappeared. 10 minutes later, he returned with wood and nails. He fixed the wheel before sundown. Then he walked away without telling her his name or asking for hers. Later, she asked him why he helped her. "Because you looked like you needed help," he said. There was no pity in his voice, just honesty. After that, he helped her again and again. Fixed the church steps she sometimes used, left apples on her porch. He never knocked. He never asked for anything. Eliza noticed him more. The calm in his eyes. The way he held doors for old folks. The way he nodded to widows. The way he carried himself like a man who had been hurt but still tried to be good. And Jack noticed her too. How she winced when she walked. How she folded her arms when people stared. How she never raised her voice, even when she was pushed. One evening, she found him sitting on the church steps. When she asked what he was waiting for, he said the sunset. She almost laughed. Almost. They sat together in silence. It felt strange, new, safe. "Do you think pain goes away?" he asked. "No," she said. "But people grow stronger." He nodded like her answer mattered. But not everyone liked the way Jack looked at her, and trouble was coming. The kind that could destroy everything. The first gunshot echoed across Dry Creek like thunder rolling off the hills. Then a second, then a third. Eliza froze on the church steps. Jack stood beside her, eyes sharp, jaw clenched. Trouble had come, and this time it carried a name. By nightfall, the town was buzzing. People whispered in corners. Mothers pulled their children close. Men checked rifles behind closed doors. They did not know what happened, but they knew who they wanted to blame. The stranger, with no past. Jack. The sheriff tried to find answers, but came up empty. Then, someone dragged an old bounty poster into the general store. Faded, wrinkled, the ink smudged with age. But the face looked just like him. Wanted. Jack called her. Desertion. Theft. Trespassing on federal land. Dry Creek did not need more than that. Fear did the rest. Before sunrise, whispers had turned into accusations. One name floated through every window and doorway. Eliza. People said she must have known, said she was hiding him, said a woman with scars and a limp must be used to trouble. Lies spread faster than truth ever could. When she walked into the general store the next morning, everyone went quiet. Every eye fell on her. Then, someone pointed to the poster on the wall. "She's been lying for him," someone muttered. "She's protecting him," another said. Before she could speak, Deputy May grabbed her arm. "Helping a wanted man is a crime," he snapped. "We're taking you in." Eliza stumbled as her bad leg gave out. She cried out, but no one listened. They dragged her through the snow as if she were nothing but a rumor come alive. Jack did not appear. Not in the street. Not in the doorway. Not even in the shadows. Her heart sank. She thought he was different. She thought he saw her. But in the moment she needed him most, he vanished like the rest. They locked her in the church cellar. Cold stone walls, and a single window barely big enough for moonlight. Her hands were scraped and shaking, her coat torn. She sat in the corner with her knees pulled to her chest, breath shallow. She did not cry. Tears were useless. She had learned long ago they only left salt behind. Just before dawn, she heard boots on the stairs. The door creaked open. Cold air swept in. "Eliza!" Jack's voice whispered. She did not turn. She did not trust what she felt. "Eliza," he repeated, stepping inside, snow clinging to his coat. "I didn't run." Her voice broke. "You weren't there. You let them take me." Jack knelt in front of her and held out a folded parchment. "I went to find this," he said. "Proof. The bounty was false. A judge cleared my name months ago. Someone here reprinted it to stir trouble." She stared at the paper, numb. "Why? Why would they do that?" Jack's voice softened. "Because they didn't want you to trust me. Didn't want you to find something good." Her eyes brimmed but did not fall. "I was stupid." "No," he said. "You were brave. You let someone in." "It doesn't matter," she whispered. "The whole town hates us." Jack sat beside her on the cold floor, shoulder to shoulder. "Let them hate. I'm not going anywhere." She looked at him for a long moment. The cellar was silent except for their breaths. Snow drifted past the window. Something warm and fragile rose inside her, a feeling she thought she buried long ago. "You came back," she said. He nodded. "I told you. I keep my word." Quote. Her first tear slid down her cheek. Jack did not wipe it. He let her be. He stayed. When the sun rose, they walked up the cellar steps together. They left town quietly. No bags, no goodbyes. Just two silhouettes moving through the snow, past the church, past the apple orchard, past the broken fence line that marked the edge of Dry Creek, up a ridge where wind howled and coyotes circled at night. Jack stopped at the top of the hill. "Here," he said. Eliza looked around. "Why here?" "Because nobody can tear down what they never helped build." He was right, so they built. A home made of rough lumber and stubborn hope. Jack cut beams. Eliza planted a garden. They patched the roof, shaped the porch, hammered until their hands bled. Every night they lit a fire, not for warmth alone, but for proof that they were still here, still fighting, still together. Sometimes they talked. Sometimes they sat in silence, but that silence no longer hurt. It felt whole. Eliza told him about Caleb, about the fire, about how she stopped believing in second chances. Jack told her about war, betrayal, and the friend who forged his name on that bounty poster to save himself. They shared their broken pieces like gifts. One morning, spring began to thaw the land. Lilacs budded near the fence. Birds returned. Townspeople started visiting quietly. First, Mrs. Redford left a pie by the door. Then the miller's boy came to chop wood. Even the preacher stopped by with nails and a hammer. Something in Dry Creek had changed. But peace never stays long. One dusty afternoon, a lone rider approached. His eyes burned with anger. A scar twisted across his cheek. Jack stiffened the moment he saw him. "Calder," the man growled. "Didn't think I'd find you hiding up here." Eliza stepped closer. "Who is he?" Jack swallowed hard. "His name is Malachi. He's the reason I ran." Malachi pulled out a paper from his coat. A real warrant. New. Sharp. Fresh ink. Forgery. Fraud. Assault. Jack's breath left him. "He used my name, then disappeared." Eliza looked at both men. "What does he want?" Malachi smirked. "Either he comes with me or I burn this pretty little place to the ground." Jack turned to her, fear heavy in his eyes. "If I stay, he ruins us. If I go, he still destroys everything." Eliza grabbed his hand. "Then we don't let him choose." The next morning, they rode into town. Straight to the sheriff's office. With Jack's clearance letter. With Malachi's warrant. With truth sharper than any bullet. Eliza stood beside Jack as the town gathered. She faced them all and spoke. "You judged me for my scars. You judged him for his silence. But this man is the only person who ever kept a promise to me." Her words stunned the room into silence. The sheriff read the paper slowly, shook his head, and finally said, "No crime here." Malachi spat on the floor. "This ain't over." But it was. He rode out of town and never returned. For the first time, Eliza and Jack walked out of the church as free people. No chains of rumor, no shadows of the past, just the truth. And each other. The night after the hearing felt softer than any night Eliza had lived through in years. Dry Creek, the same town that once dragged her through the snow, now watched her with quiet eyes. Not all kind eyes, but not hateful ones either. Something had shifted, something had cracked open. Eliza and Jack walked back toward the ridge together. The sky was clear, the moon wide and pale. Jack's hand brushed hers, not holding, not forcing, just there. Close enough for comfort, close enough to remind her she was no longer walking alone. When they reached their cabin, Eliza paused at the door. The fire crackled inside. The porch creaked under their boots. This small place, built from rough lumber and stubborn hope, suddenly felt like the safest spot in the world. Jack looked at her. "We can leave if you want," he said. "Start new somewhere far from here." Eliza shook her head. "No running kept you alive, but staying might save us." He smiled, soft and real. "Then we stay." Spring rolled across the ridge, slow but steady. Wildflowers pushed through the dirt. Birds returned. The garden Eliza planted with aching hands began to sprout tiny green leaves. Jack started building a stable beside the cabin, working from dawn until the sun dipped behind the hills. Sweat on his brow, dust on his boots, determination in every move he made. Eliza joined him whenever her leg allowed. They worked side by side, learning the rhythm of each other, sometimes talking, sometimes quiet, but always together. People from town came more often now. Mrs. Redford brought pies and bread. The Miller boy chopped wood and stayed for stories about Jack's travels. Even the preacher showed up with nails and advice about sturdy fences. Eliza did not trust it fully. Not yet, but she let it happen. Bit by bit, the town's fear loosened its hold. One warm afternoon, as the stable neared completion, Eliza leaned on the half-built wall and watched Jack work. His shirt was rolled to the elbows. His movements steady. Calm, honest. "You don't talk much," she said. Jack wiped sweat from his brow. Never saw much point in wasting words. "You think talking is wasting?" He shook his head. "Not when it's with you." Her cheeks warmed. She looked away, but something inside her softened, like ice melting in the first touch of spring. Later that night, they sat near the fire outside. Stars dotted the sky. Coyotes howled far in the distance. The flames cast warm light over Jack's face. "Eliza," he said quietly. She met his eyes. "I never asked what you want. Not the town, not the whispers. You." She thought for a long moment. Her whole life had been shaped by surviving, by loss, by silence. But what did she want? "I want a life that doesn't hurt," she answered, "and someone who won't leave when it does." Jack nodded. "I can be that man." "I know," she whispered. "That's what scares me." He reached out slowly, giving her time to pull back. She didn't. His fingers touched hers, gentle but sure. "Then we take it slow," he said. "No rush." Her breath shook, not from fear, from relief. Weeks passed. The stable finished. The garden blossomed. Their home began to look like a life someone could love. But peace has a way of testing people one last time. One morning, while Jack was fixing the fence, Eliza walked down to the creek. The water was low but clear. She knelt to wash a tin cup, and as she lifted her head, she saw something shining under a rock. Curiosity pulled her toward it. It was a small metal locket. Old, weathered. She opened it with careful fingers. Inside was a name carved in tiny letters. Calder. Her breath caught. It was Jack's real last name. She had never asked him for it. He had never offered it, not to hide it. Just because neither of them lived in the past. Under the name, another word. Family. Eliza felt her chest tighten. She stood slowly and walked back toward the cabin. Jack noticed her right away. He set his tools aside. "Everything all right?" She held the locket out. "This yours?" Jack's eyes softened. He took it gently. "It was my mother's, only thing I have left from before the war." Eliza swallowed. "Do you miss them?" Quote, "Every day," he said, "but meeting you made it hurt less." Her heart pulled tight. "I don't have anything from my old life. Not Caleb, not the ranch, not even a piece of who I used to be." Jack shook his head. "You have more than you think." "What?" He touched his chest, right over his heart. "You have this, and you didn't even try to take it. You just earned it." Her breath trembled. They stood in silence, the morning sun warm on their faces. "Eliza," Jack said softly, "marry me." Her heart stilled. "Jack, not today, not tomorrow, not until you're ready, but one day, if you want." She stared at him, searching his face, searching for fear, for selfishness, for lies. But she found none. Only truth, only steadiness. Only the man who never left. "Not one day," she said. "Today." His breath hitched. "You sure?" Quote, "Yes," she whispered, "because you didn't save me. You stood with me, and that's the only kind of love I want." The town gathered under the cottonwood tree that afternoon. Lanterns hung from branches. Quilts spread across the grass. Children chased fireflies while the preacher cleared his throat. Jack stood at the altar in a clean shirt, no hat, wanting her to see his whole face. Eliza walked toward him, wrapped in a white shawl, her limp, steady, but unashamed. The preacher began speaking, but Jack stepped forward. "I need to say something," he said. Eliza froze, breath held. "I'm not perfect. I don't have much. But everything I am, I want to build with you. Brick by brick, day by day. I'll stand with you, through fire, through dust, through everything the world throws at us." He reached for her hand. "I'll stay. That's my promise." Eliza's eyes filled. She took his hand tightly. "I never needed saving," she said. "Just someone who wouldn't leave." They did not exchange rings. They exchanged names carved into the porch of their home. They did not kiss in front of the crowd. They kissed later under the stars, beside their fire, wrapped in each other and the quiet. Years passed. Their ranch grew. Wild horses ran through the paddocks. The porch weathered. The flowers bloomed. And one winter night, Eliza placed a wool blanket around a baby boy in a carved cradle. Jack looked up. "What will we call him?" She smiled softly. "Samuel." Jack's eyes warmed. "After him?" "Yes," she whispered. "For strength, for peace, for a new beginning." Jack kissed her forehead. Samuel Calder. "Sounds like a good man already." Eliza looked at her home, at the man who stayed, at the life she built from ashes. She was never cursed. She was someone's miracle all along.